Mine is the only voice.
Wow.
What have I been doing?
Lay down my autonomy.
After that, it got very dark very quickly.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Cults to Consciousness. Shalise here. I'm your host, and we are doing a follow-up to an interview we just released. We are talking about the American Romani culture within this specific story with this person who we just had on. We did a full interview. You're definitely going to want to check it out. And so many of you, I'm going to read some of the comments here in a second, we're like, have her back. So thanks for being here, Gina.
Hi, welcome. I'm not welcome. I'm welcoming myself back. Welcome back to the show.
Yes, you can welcome everybody who's joining us live. That works too.
Hi, everybody.
So, yes, a few comments I was just going to read for funsies. Shalice, you should have her on for part 2. This woman is a compelling storyteller. I would be very interested to hear what happens next. I think this might be my favorite so far. What a story. Massive kudos to her for escaping that horrific situation and not letting all the bad things that happened to her turn her bitter. We need a second part with lots of horn emojis. Would love to hear more of her story. Can you please do a second part? And then the last one, Shalise, what an interview. Gina is magnetic, intelligent, an incredible speaker, and such a strong woman. Please bring her back. So those are some of the people asking for part 2s. There were a lot more, and I have a couple more to read in a second, but where we're going to start, thanks for everyone joining live. If you're watching the replay, hello, hello. Make sure after this you go and watch the full beginning of Gina's story, where we go into her childhood, how she was brought up to be a fortune teller, how she knew she was scamming people, but she was forced into doing it. And just as like a blanket disclaimer, we do it every time, but someone always misses it. We are not making a statement about the entire Romani culture. We understand that these are an oppressed people in different parts of the world as well, all over the place. Today we are focusing in on Gina's story because remember, we cover not only cults but high control groups and people, including families, and we definitely feel that Gina's story fits into that category. Gina, can you add to this for the disclaimer?
Yeah, for sure. My story is definitely unique. The fact that my culture, the fact that my family in my specific culture adopted some really bad habits and dysfunction doesn't have anything to do with the authenticness of the culture of Romani people. However, consequently, I was brought up in the Romani people, and having the strict culture in a negative way impacted me in a negative way. So one more time, just a disclaimer, I am not representing all Gypsy Romani people. I do not.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think it's fair to say, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, that there are sometimes cultural practices or ways in practicing a certain religion or a certain theology that can lend itself to a more abusive environment, but it doesn't always play out that way, which is why we bring up mostly on this show the patterns of manipulation, control, and abuse, and why we think and why our guests think that their specific situation was affected by those patterns that may have created this environment or fostered this environment or didn't help the case in this environment. And so that's why we really dug into that in your first interview. And you were just being very honest about your story, about your family, and about the things you were taught to do. So, yeah, that's why we're here. Any thoughts on that before we move on?
Quickly, I'd like to say, in general, I believe that when you're in a group of people who are like-minded, let's just say a culture or a religious group of people, sometimes power allows in not only the thing that's created the group to be so good, but it also allows in power, manipulation, and greed. And sometimes when there are people in higher places and they have control, they don't know what to do with it. And so you can take a beautiful thing like, I dare say this with all due respect, like a background of Christianity, like the Mormons. Maybe one point, the Gypsy culture in my family, or the Mormons, or other religions where they've turned into some greed and some people did some harmful things. Maybe at one point there was a pure nature to it. So I also believe that there things like that can exist. You can take something that's fundamentally supposed to be good and it turns out horribly because of power, greed, and yeah, power and
Yeah.
greed, really, selfishness.
Yeah, all great points. And I just wanted to make sure we started the live out this way because we never want to make anyone feel like we are trying to demonize an entire group of people, an ethnic group of people, a culture. There are always nuances. There are always going to be different stories and positive stories as well from the different groups that we cover. So, yes, wanted to get that through. One more comment before we jump into your story. I would like to hear more from Gina about the fortune telling methods used by the Romani. It seems like they were not using psychic abilities, but learned how to categorize people into stereotypes. If she can elaborate about the methods used, I think she can help people avoid being taken advantage of. I think just a little snippet of this before we get into your escape and your life after.
Yeah, in my experience growing up, watching my cousins, my aunts, my maternal um, the maternal women in my life be active in fortune telling when we had like booths at the fair or customers came to the house or our offices. I know that the confidence in what they're saying to this client or customer is a big part of it. Um, Having that confidence that I'm not asking you a question, I'm stating to you what's going on. The client also needs to be in a place mentally where they're searching for an answer to a problem that they have, whether that be a psychological, mental, physical, another person problem, a spiritual problem. They're literally looking at and holding on to every word that this woman, this psychic, is saying so that they can reach in to find that answer. Because when these clients come to my family, um, in my experience, they're desperate for something. Like the woman that I asked for $5,000, she was desperate for something. I was providing a solution for her. And let me just say this, I never provided a solution for her. Whether she thinks that or not, I can tell you that I never did that. It was, I was leading her to believe that. And it's hard for me to say out loud. This is not something that I'm trying to do to out people, but I'm not going to come on here and talk about this and only give you half the story. With all due respect, I'm not a half-asser. I'm going to say all of it.
Yeah, I think that's very commendable. And you go into more detail about that story in our previous interview. So, guys, if you're interested in that, you can go watch and see the stakes that Gina was under as far as why she had to continue doing that and really all of the regrets surrounding that as well. So, let's get into your story. I said this, or the last comment I wanted to read. This is the last comment before we get in. Someone said, "Whew, this was like watching a documentary thriller. I love her storytelling. She was always stronger and more beautiful than she knew. I'd love to see a follow-up to learn more about how many children she ultimately had, if she ever found true love, and what happened to her daughter's father, who at the time was her hero." So I'm gonna do my best to summarize and catch everybody up if they haven't seen it yet. So you had been seeing an older man while you were being sent to college classes to get thinner while on a diet of a head of lettuce and crackers because they thought you needed to lose a bunch of weight in order to get married.
Yeah.
You found this man, you got pregnant with his child, and I'm going to let you take it from there.
He was, like she said, he was my hero. He's the one who eventually helped me transition out. All my idea. He didn't persuade me or coerce me. It was my idea. I was the, like I said, I was the seducer. I was the one who wanted the relationship. I wanted out. And my daughter, I haven't talked about this yet, but I will preface that I got pregnant. And right before I found out I was pregnant, I had a dream that there was a baby, a beautiful baby in the closet in a car seat. And I woke up the next day and was like, what kind of dream was that? 2 months later or 3 months later, I found out I was pregnant, forgot the dream, but recognized that I believe God was showing me like you're about to get saved here because my daughter saved my life. That's just the reality of it. She's 32 now, absolutely gorgeous. She was not brought up in the culture. I did that on purpose. for my own reasons, because I wanted her to do and have the opportunities that I never had. Um, he is still alive and well. He lives in a different state. He's not in California anymore. My daughter talks to her father whenever she talks to him. We don't really talk that much anymore, which is interesting, but I think that people have a time and a season in our lives, and he was there to help me transition. He was there to protect me. He was there to help me. He told me that I was smart and that I could go to school, and I didn't believe him at the time. I was like, no, I'm stupid. I don't know anything. And he told me, no, you're really smart and you should go to school after, with the baby and all that. He was a good dad. We ended up staying together until she was 6 years old. And
Oh,
that's kind of,
wow.
yeah. And so, I was much younger than him. So by the time she was six, I was in my late 20s and he was getting older. So I needed to explore things. He was doing his own thing. And so we kind of just split, but we always stayed family. So,
Yeah. Can you talk briefly about why it was your pregnancy that got you to escape? What were the stakes there?
well, being in my culture, the whole premise behind being a gypsy girl is to get married to a gypsy boy or man. And for me, I knew I didn't want to do that. I knew after my father passed and I went to go live with my uncle, and I had to go through that whole experience with the lady in the 5,000. I knew then that I needed to figure out a way to get out. Um, and as crazy as it sounds, I'm 19 years old. And I also, on top of all of that, my father passed away, and I'm living in a household with people who, let's just be honest, hated my guts. I was too fat. I was not right in any way, capacity, shape, or form. And I say that because that was their point of view. I needed, not only did I need to get out, but in the time being at 19 years old, no education, running a psychic office that I don't want to, I am in a place, I'm like an eggplant being brought up in a tomato patch. Like I do not fit, right? And whether that's bad or good doesn't matter. The point is, I don't fit and I needed to get out of there. I also needed love and kindness and caring. And so I went to search for it. And now going back and looking at it, that's exactly what I did. And I'm not embarrassed by it. Now, any family that's watching right now or anybody that sees this later is going to say, oh, how embarrassing what you did. You went to find a man. Yep, that's what I did. And I got a baby out of it. So to answer your question too, because you said, what's the premise? So knowing that I was dating him and that was taboo, didn't matter to me. Knowing that I was dating him and it was taboo and that I could risk in a risk of that, end up pregnant, I don't think I was thinking about that. I don't think it mattered to me. Finding out I was pregnant scared the life out of me. But why it was so important for me to leave, because I can't be a woman in the culture pregnant with a non-gypsy man's baby, or being pregnant at all without being married. If there were any women in my culture at the time of me, for the first 19 years of my life that were pregnant before they were married, nobody knew about it. It would have definitely been covered up. But I'm going to guess that probably didn't really happen very often because they were controlled arranged marriages. So there was no dating going on for that to happen. Now, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I'm saying I don't think it did. So it was really important that knowing I was pregnant, knowing I wanted to leave, this man is not my husband. He's not gypsy. I knew right then and there, facing that abuse that I was facing that whole time I was living with my uncle, that this would not be, this would not be an exception. I would definitely face abuse. And that would have been embarrassment to him, to our family name, and to our heritage, and to the line of like the next thing she's supposed to do is get married. Well, now uh, I'm soiled. I'm I'm what do you call it? Damaged goods. So I knew I had to leave, not only because of all those things, but also if he found out, if I'm getting physically abused in my face because I'm not going to scam someone for money, nothing in the world would have led me to believe that he wouldn't have physically abused me because I was with a man intimately out of the culture and not married. I knew it was a guarantee. He would beat me up or hurt me until I lost my child.
Mm,
So
that's
in
terrifying.
it's terrifying, but in a very strong and direct way, being pregnant was my saving grace.
Yeah.
She saved my life.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yes. So this is basically where we had to end the interview. I was like, we're out of time. There's so much to talk about. So I want to get into, you said you were with the first guy for 6 years.
Mhm.
And so I want to talk about what it was like actually growing into yourself, figuring out who you were, and being a mom at the same time because you were so isolated. You got pulled out of school when you were 12. You really weren't in mainstream society completely because you were sheltered. You were taken to and from places. You could only take the bus to and from certain places. So you were really isolated. So before we get into what that was like, I want to see if there are any questions from our listeners here that we can talk. Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Do you think it's harder for adults born into these groups to leave due to monetary reasons, or is it more your over control from such a young age, or both? It's a great question.
Monetary meaning like money, not having
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
Um, I would say both because I left with $300 in my pocket and someone that would help me. Um, but the over controlling, and it's a great segue to what we were talking about. So the time that I left, I didn't have anything. I had $300 in my pocket, and so I had rents. I knew already that I had to take care of myself. I didn't feel like somebody else was going to take care of me monetarily. Even the father of my child, I knew I didn't. It wasn't a no that he wouldn't because he would have. It was I needed to do for me. I was at a place mentally and psychologically where I didn't trust a soul. I didn't expect anyone to do anything for me because why? I hadn't been brought up that way. Had I had a good parent to tell me that no, I didn't have any of that. I was not given that unthought of blessing that the majority of the world, let's just say, like my kids can come to me and say, Mom, I need this. They were brought up in a place where they had clothing and food, and I did everything I could to keep a stable environment for them, get them to school on time, have dinner on the table, not abandon them, the basics. Um, so I needed to take care of myself, and I went to start working at the Dairy Queen that
The Dairy
uh,
Queen that you
that I
escaped
ran
into
to.
when you
Yeah,
thought, oh,
yeah,
wow.
because I was
Okay.
right there so locally, right? And so
Yeah.
a couple things were going on. I got pregnant. I left. I immediately went to look for work, and I felt terrified because we were living, what, 5 blocks away from my uncle. At this point, I know he knows where I'm at. So there's that going on, the terrifying like stress. My pregnancy wasn't the best. I was ill. I had lipedema at the time and didn't know, and was gaining weight like crazy and didn't know why. No one knew why. So there was that level. And then I felt I felt stupid. I'm here, I'm in the American culture now, and I'm 19. I've never gone to school. I don't know what high school looks like. I don't even know what you study in high school. Um, I don't have any skill really. And so the best thing that I could do was work at Dairy Queen. It was my first like job with like like at a company because I was working as the babysitter, but that was like not under the table, but that was like cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was my first job, and I was working there for a couple of months, and then I had to stop because I got sciatica really bad and my leg would go numb and I couldn't stand up. So I was really upset about it because I wanted to be so independent, but I had to get put on welfare and food stamps until I could, have the baby. So he told me not to, and I did anyway because it was my thing. Um, one of the biggest problems I had was feeling alone.
Mm.
And even though feeling alone isn't I'm not the kind of person to be terrified of loneliness. I felt like here I am again. Now I'm in a strange land, even though I'm American. I was still in a strange land with no one. Even the people that hated me weren't around. Like at least I had the people that hated me. So here I am, clean slate. I do have someone in my life, and he wasn't horrible to me, not abusive whatsoever, very kind. But I don't think I was ready for a relationship, even though I went
Mm-hmm.
through all of that. I really wasn't ready. So we weren't really in a relationship. We were a family, but we weren't really
Yeah.
in a relationship, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
He was like this older gentleman that probably should have been like an uncle to me, but I did things and we both did things together that created another type of family. And that's just what it was. It was weird and different, but I was finding a place out of a bad place. And
Yeah,
thank
he was a
God,
stepping stone.
that's it right there. He was a stepping stone. Thank God I did though, because and he knew it. He was, he was an adult. He was mature. He knew what I was doing and what I needed. And it was all very honest and open. And so for years, I had to find myself, and I didn't know where I stood in this life. I didn't know what my value was. I didn't know what my purpose was. And me being the type of a woman that I was, my value system was different than those of the new people in my life. His friends, people I met at school, because I started going to college, taking a couple of classes, and the people that I was peered with thought I was strange for the things that I did and the way I did them. And so my value system wasn't valuable to them. And so that was really hard for me to figure out. So if going to my friend's house for dinner that also has a toddler, and I immediately start cleaning her house, if that's not valuable, how do I go to someone's house and not start cleaning? I can't just sit there and watch her do it.
Interesting. And that was because you felt like that was something that you should be doing to help her, and she was probably offended, like, you think my house is dirty?
She thought I was weird. Like, you don't have to clean my house. It's okay. And it wasn't that I purposely thought I'm going to her house and because I'm here, I should help her. It's what we do. When growing up in my culture, when we would go over to friends or family's house, you don't just go play with your friends. At a certain age, you're in the kitchen, helping set the table, cook the food, clean, entertain, clean up after the men, like empty ashtrays, bring beer, make drinks, put food on the table, clean up the food off the table, help take care of the kids. So that was ingrained in me. It's still ingrained in me.
Okay.
So those are the kinds of things that I had to try to shut off, because a whole culture of people, meaning not the gypsies, were like, what are you doing? Why are you asking for Ajax to clean the bathroom? What is happening right now? So I
To
was like,
clean the
okay,
bathroom.
yeah. So I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, it's weird. I didn't know it was weird. So there
Yeah.
was there was that. Yeah. That was one big thing.
Do you remember any other cultural shocks? Any other scenarios?
Yeah, not getting dressed up for things. People, like, still to this day, I can't stand it. People go to church or go to an event and it's like, you bought a new sweatshirt and a pair of jeans and that's your outfit. Like, yeah, it's brand new. Oh my God, put a dress on. Wear some high heels. And I know that sounds real sexist and I'm not trying to be that way, but like, why did God or why did the world make pretty fancy clothes if we're not going to wear them for things like a party? Like, get dressed up.
The bougie never left you?
It never left. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you saw the pictures of our weddings, you'd see how elaborate,
Uh-huh.
or the parties even, we got dressed.
Well, I can agree with that. I like dressing up. It's fun. I appreciate dressing up and the effort it
Yeah.
takes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
at the job that I have, I'm currently a property manager. And for 12 years, I work from home now, but when I go downstairs to my office, I am dressed. And it's not because I think I'm cool, that I think it's like, you don't go out in public without being presentable. That's it. It's
Oh,
not
is
because
it
I
a
think I'm
shame
great.
thing?
Not shame, but integrity. It's integrity.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's integrity. Like, you
Interesting.
don't go to outside looking like that. And I don't judge other people who do it. I judge myself for doing it or not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of an internal shame. Like you would be ashamed if
Yeah.
someone saw you out at the grocery store in sweatpants. Is
100%.
that what you mean?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, with that said, I have mellowed out a bit. I'll go to the store in sweatpants, but I'm gonna look cute.
The cute sweatpants.
Yes. Hello.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, do we have any other questions before we continue? I think I saw a super chat. Hey, we read one of your comments, Lena on me. The group reminds me of a branch of FLDS. Men are the head, but women actually make the money. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
definitely the order for sure, a branch of Mormonism where the women, the polygamous wives are expected to be the breadwinners and raise all the
wow.
children. It just blows my mind. I don't know how they do it. They are literal superheroes.
Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, so is that how it felt in your culture where the women were doing all of the housework, raising the kids, and bringing in the money?
Just like that. Pretty scary. Not, well, pretty scary thinking about it now. Pretty normal growing up. Pretty normal.
So what
Um,
did the guys do then? What were they up to?
well, depending on the visa, um, it's so funny you bring that up because, the Machwaya and the Kalderash are like, we're like the best. And then they call people, literally in our culture, we'll call people, those are the roughies, right? So there's the roughies, right? But the roughy men, they work and they help and they do more than the men of the higher ranking visa. And I came from the higher ranking visa people. So my boys, meaning the men in my life, in my experience with my eyeballs, they did things like, oh, nothing. And they didn't take the trash out really, buy and sell cars, go golfing, go to get married and bug their women for money to go out to Las Vegas to hang out with the guys. Now, I know what this sounds like right now, but I would love to have a conversation with a gypsy man currently that can tell me that he does something different so that he can prove me wrong. And that's fine. I would love that because that's all I saw. It's one of the reasons why they turned me off so bad. That like so I grew up with a cousin that's like they called us twins. We're same age, a boy cousin. He's my mother's sister's son. And his father is my father's uncle. So we're connected. We look exactly alike, only he's got green eyes. Okay. I remember being in the house with him. We're the same age. I would have to cook and clean and take the trash out, and he would be sitting his butt on the couch with the remote. And when I'd be done with all the chores and I'd sit down, if I had the remote in my hand, he'd pull it from me and be like, "I'm the boy." He'd look at me like, "No, I get to watch football." I would be irate. My
Ugh.
cousins wouldn't be irate, but I would be like, "Why can't I watch a show? Like, why is it that you get to do all this stuff and I don't get to do any of it?" Like, I was okay with being a girl and having my gender role. I was cool with it. But can I watch television? Can you take the trash out? Like, do something. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, some reward for all your hard work.
something, right? Or how about like if I get a reward, but can you take the trash out? Why am I going down the stairs, taking the trash out? My hands are dirty. I'm cooking too. Like, why can't you do that?
Yeah.
So I never
Interesting.
understood it. It bothered
Did
me
you
a
have a
lot.
hard time breaking those really specific gender roles throughout your future relationships
Yes.
or
I ended up,
accepting help?
yeah. Yes, ma'am. You're so smart. Yes, I still have a problem accepting help. Major.
Yeah.
And all my family and my support system will like call me out on it. Like you don't take our advice enough. You don't allow us to help you enough. And my kids will like not abusively, but they'll like raise their voice and be frustrated with me. And I love it because it's like, hold me accountable. You're right. I have to hurry up because I can't do everything by myself. But so I get um I don't know what the word is, but people mistake me for someone who thinks that like she thinks she's better than everybody. And I have to just say it out loud right now. That's the exact opposite. I think I'm obligated to be everything. I don't think I'm perfect.
Mm.
I think I'm obligated to be everything. And if I'm not everything, then what am I worth? And I
Wow.
wonder
That's
if
a
there are
big
other,
state. Hold on. Let's just marinate on that
yeah,
because
yeah,
that was so beautifully put. If I'm not everything, Am I, shoot, now I just forgot it. Do you
What is my
remember
worth?
exactly what is
Yeah,
my
what is
worth?
my worth?
That is so good. I just recorded an episode today with my mom, so you guys are in for a real treat.
Oh,
We got another mom episode coming for Mother's Day.
I
But
love
that
it.
was the entire thing of growing up Mormon. It was like, if I'm not perfect, if I'm not doing everything, am I even worthy? And that's such a real thing in these high control groups.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to cry because it's very, very bad. I'm sorry.
That's
Um,
okay.
and why does it have to be an ugly cry? Can it be a
No,
cute cry? But no.
stop.
Okay,
No.
so no, if I'm not a smartass about it, I'm gonna continue to cry. So, um, yeah, so it's like my value system is still, that's the biggest thing that I want to talk about, like the bigger thing. I know people that have a problem understanding the new value systems that they're put in. And I'm trying not to say names, you know who I'm talking about. I have cousins, I have people. And you leave a certain group, and this does not just mean my people, though. There have got to be people out here that leave a certain situation, leave a certain value system that change into another value system or want something new. That that road, that transition from one value system to the other, my dears, it's hard. It's very hard. Don't stop. Do not stop. Keep going and try to find someone that can help you. Call me. Figure out, get a hold of me. Try to figure out how you can get yourself supported in learning your own value system and how to let go of the old value system. Because for me, it took years. I left at 19, I'm 52. It took years, and I'm still there, remembering that my new value system is worth something, and
Mm-hmm.
that I don't have to have that old value system anywhere. And when I say the old value system, what I mean is the value system that was placed on me in my childhood. What's the most important thing? What's more important than, like, self-care is something that was not on a value system for me then. Um, Speaking out, um, always feeling like I have to be up and doing something. I told you earlier that I had a bit of a condition with my legs and it's hard to walk. Let's just be real. I have a mobility issue. I still feel guilt on a daily basis because I can't cook the food, clean the house, do the work, play with the grandson. And I was doing it for years and hiding it. And my family found out and they were angry with me. Like, what the hell? Why are you not telling us? Here's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why. Because I feel like I'm not worthy if I'm not doing those things.
Yeah. Oh, that's so real. And it's such a prevalent side effect of high control groups because without their subjects feeling worthless, they have no power. If the people they were trying to control realized how much worth they had, if they realized that they didn't need this other person or this set of rules or this society to be whole, then they would lose all of their power. And I feel like that is such a big part of getting your power back when you leave a high control group is stepping into that power and stepping into your intuition and stepping into realizing that you can accept love, that you are worthy of accepting love. Ooh, that's a hard one. And I think that's why
Very
a lot of
hard.
times we get stuck. It's happened to me, get stuck into narcissistic relationships because they are the ones who are like, I'll give you the attention that you deserve. And they make you feel beautiful, but then they take it away. And then you're like, oh, I'm worthless. That's right. I forgot. I should be in this relationship because I don't deserve anything better. And it's so hard to get out of that cycle. Did you have any issues like that once you started dating again of finding the right people?
Or maybe you're the psychic here. Yes, I did. You just said it. You just said it. But you know what's really interesting about what you're talking about right now? And I know that this is cult to consciousness, but women or men in abusive relationships go through the same thing, right? So what's the recipe for that? A leader and a follower, but an abusive leader that can weaken down the follower, right? That's not what leading and
Mm-hmm.
following is supposed to be. So again, when there's an imbalance in the leading and the following, you end up taking that recipe with you and trying to push it into everybody else. Now, the one thing that I can say that I'm proud of myself for is that I had an abusive stepmother. My father wasn't abusive, but he was so weak and ill that he was more neglectful than anything else, but not on purpose. He just wasn't a strong, protective person that I probably needed, but I'm not mad at him. You know, it is what it is. The man died at 36 years old. He had heart problems. Um, she was bad to me. She was abusive to me. My uncle was abusive to me. And then on top of that, we come from a culture where anything that looks different than what the norm is, there's something wrong with you and you're going to be ridiculed. I never got in a relationship with a man that was abusive at all. A matter of fact, and this, I'm going to be really honest, either two things happen. You either become the victim for somebody or they become the victim and you're the bad guy, right? Well, I would probably say that I'm the one that was like, hi, you want to be in a relationship? Okay. Do anything to me. Watch what's going to happen. So I was always very defensive with my arms up, hands up. I never really wanted to be down here because then if you abuse me, someone's going to jail. It's not going to be me, or it probably will be me. You know, I don't know. So I was the I'll leave in a minute. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
can't tame me. You can't control me. Don't put your hands on me. Don't look at me a funny way. Don't even give me a side eye because I'll be out. And
Yeah,
I
a
did that
trauma
for,
response.
there you go.
You were
And
in you were in fight or flight.
yes, I was in flight a whole lot. One time, I, so I got into another relationship. Okay. After my daughter's father, I ended up in another relationship, had a beautiful little boy. I was engaged, and this was not a great relationship. And I told him, if you bring your family back to my house, I'm going to pack it up and leave before you get here. He was like, okay, I'll see you later. Have chicken made for dinner. My mom is coming. I was like, okay. He left at 10 o'clock in the morning. He came back about 6. House was packed up. I had already rented it out to someone else because I told my landlord what was happening. My best friend moved in, took the rent over, signed the lease that day. I had all my stuff packed and in storage. I had both of my kids, got in the car, and moved out. Talk
What?
about fight or flights. I'm good at it. I'm never, like I said, I'm not a half-asser. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you think that was a trauma response, a fear response, not being vulnerable, or just like people have pushed me around my whole life and no one's even gonna try to push me around now.
Absolutely. I've
Yeah.
never attracted a man that would physically harm me. It's really weird. I know that that's an energy attraction. I've always attracted men that were more kind than that. And the reason why I left like that is because unfortunately he was a heavy drinker, not abusive. Again, not abusive, but we just didn't align.
Yeah.
That was it. We just didn't. But
Okay.
yeah, it was definitely to answer your question. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're not gonna get me. I'll leave before you can get me.
Yeah.
I always
Okay.
feel the need for that. Sorry.
No, you're good. We're gonna get to how you found love in a minute. Let's get to some more questions.
Okay.
So, Lissa, oh my gosh, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your super chat. I had a psychiatrist tell me years ago, the way you dress helps with how you feel. If you dress well, you will feel better. Even though I don't leave the house in much anymore, I still try to wear nice clothes. It does actually make me feel better. I
Me
agree with
too.
that.
Me too. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree that sweats have a place.
Oh, I love sweat. I love
Sometimes
sweat.
sweats make me feel better too.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, sweats are great.
Oh, thank you so much, Lissa. Amy says, I'll be 50 in September, and sometimes I still feel the need to call my mom to tell her I got an A on a test because her love always felt conditional, raised Catholic. Ugh, Amy, thank you for sharing. That's so
Yes,
relatable.
I love that, Amy.
Yeah. Tara says, remember, guys, unconditional compassion for yourself is the key to the door of universal abundance. That's
Thank you,
beautiful.
Tara. We have to remember that all the time, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard, that self-love, because also it's not just self-care, it's self-love. right?
Right.
Because we may have practiced some form of self care in a high control group, or we may have thought we were doing some form of self care. But self love, that comes from so deep within. And that is something that is usually not fostered very well, or the opposite is true when you're in a high control group. They don't want you to love yourself because they want you to need and love them. They want you to be subservient to them, to the group, to the narcissistic person who is abusing you, to whoever is in the control, the power dynamic. And so, yeah, finding that self love is so crucial after leaving. And it does take a long time. We already kind of touched on it, but just feeling worthy and feeling useful and feeling full and knowing that you are worth taking care of, even no one else even involved. I am worth loving myself. I am worth eating some vitamins. I am worth going on a walk. Whatever it
That's
is
right.
that
Right.
nourishes you, it takes a
Right.
while to gain that perspective.
Well, I can tell you that honestly, I'm you're the professor on that level, and I would probably be in first grade because I still fight that. I still fight it. And probably because I didn't pay enough attention and I wasn't aware enough in my younger years. So it's still very hard. Um, the difference now though is that I'm aware that that's true. That
Yeah.
isn't what you just said is a universal truth to about anyone. Yeah, a murderer, someone like you, someone like me, a murderer, anyone. That's a universal truth. And so I'm trying to adopt that in my cells, in my mind, in my skin. I'm trying to adopt that in every situation that I have, in every part of my being, because
Yeah.
I still don't have that down yet. And I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of people here can relate.
Well, it's true that awareness is key. I think it's 50% of the battle. Once you can become aware of your mindset, then you can change it. But until then, it's really impossible to break that cycle. Jonathan says we have more questions.
Oh,
Sandy caught alive. Okay, let's see more questions. Elizabeth, thank you for the super chat. Your guest is so strong. I agree. She's
thank you.
great.
Thank you. Sometimes.
I'm curious if your family has any contact now and if you still miss them.
Oh, that's a good one. Munira. So yes and no. So here's what I mean by
Okay.
that. I'll do it real quick. For the last, when did I leave? When I was like 20, so 32 years. So I left with my daughter's 32. So the last 32 years, there was a time when I was speaking to my sister that I was brought up with. She's like 5 years younger than me. And we spoke for a while and we saw each other and we kind of raised our kids together. And there was a statement or a conversation that we had on several occasions. She'd look at me and say, Gina, we're not going to be able to do this when the kids get older because your kids are not in the culture. And
Mm,
my daughter happens to be a culture that she's brown, has brown skin, and they are not. They were like, my sister was like, I love her, but we got to separate. And that really irked me. I wasn't strong enough back then. Yes, yes, yes. It wasn't strong enough back then to really understand. I have a really bad hip, so excuse my moving. I have to move sometimes. I wasn't strong enough then to really understand what she was trying to say because I needed my sister. At least I believed that I needed my sister. And so there was that. And then my mother did come back into my life at some point, which wasn't a good thing. Several different times, my biological mother came back into my life, and it never ended well. And I'm going to say this, not because she was bad to me, but because my mother's weak, and she was also abused by a gentleman very severely, very badly. And so even after he passed away, she still had that like film over her. I don't know how else to explain it, but my mother was
the
traumatized a lot.
residual trauma.
The residual trauma. There you go. And when I say weak, I know what that sounds like. It sounds like I'm being mean. I'm not. I'm saying it to be honest. Um, she was just weak, and everyone else always mattered. So my mother had four other kids with this guy, 4 or 5, whatever. I have five. I have six brothers and sisters altogether, all younger than me. I'm the oldest, and Now we don't have relationships because of what I'm doing right now. Because I'm here, because I wrote the book, they all told me, we're not speaking to you anymore. We have now again abandoned you. And I understand and I'm fully aware. How does it feel? Feels like shit. Do I understand it? Yes. The one thing that gets me the most is my kids, my siblings, their children have had children, and I'm a aunt, I'm a baby lover. I want to see my nephews and nieces. I want to hold them and kiss them like they're my own. And I can't anymore. My sister specifically, she's the one I was brought up with. She has 4 children and they all have children now. And I'm not allowed to see any of them. And that extremely hurts my heart.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh, that's so hard, especially because there's something that is so difficult after you leave a high control group and you can finally see things clearly. You can look in to whatever group you were part of and go, oh, that shouldn't matter. Or,
right.
oh, why was I so invested in this lifestyle? Why was I in so much pain and I couldn't see it? And then when you are with somebody else, right? Or sorry, my brain went so a different direction.
That's okay. I
When
get it.
you are looking back in and you want to have a relationship with those people and they're acting in those ways that you can clearly see don't serve anybody, it's so frustrating because you're like, oh, why don't you see it? Why don't you see that none of this matters? Why don't you see that the color of my child's skin is irrelevant? Because this is
Yeah.
family. And why can't we be a family? Why can't we just love each other? And it's
Right.
so hard, but you know where they're at because you've been in that mindset. So you can understand to some capacity why they're acting the way that they're acting. But it's so hard, again, just when you see the light to realize that they're still so under the control of this arbitrary thing.
You said something that I have been feeling within my body and my soul and my mind for my whole life. And no one has ever been able to share that understanding with me. And it feels really good to hear that. Yes, exactly. I even said to them, why can't we just be family and I can come to your house and we can all hang out? And then when you guys go to big weddings, I won't go. And I didn't really care to, but that wasn't good enough for them. They didn't want to be seen with me. They didn't want anyone to know they were talking to me.
Oh,
And not only was it painful, but it was painful, but not real deep because I'm kind of over it now. Like, yes, it's still painful not to see my nieces and nephews and their babies, but it's like, who, why does it matter to you so much?
mm-hmm.
Why it's dumb to me that you guys would put a culture that does nothing for you, these
Above
people that
family.
above family, like for instance, another sister, her son was getting married and I'm like, oh, I can't wait, I'm going to get a dress, because she was like, you're going, right? I'm like, yes, oh my god, yes, I'm going. And then down to the wire, um that's not a good idea, it's going to cause a problem for my son and his daughter and his wife, and I don't want the people that we're getting daughter-in-law from to be upset about it. Meanwhile, the people that they're getting the daughter-in-law from, the woman, the mother-in-law, she was married to an American man for years, but she was married to the American man. I'm not going to go into names, obviously. She was married to the American man. He was really rich for money, and it was literally accepted that she could do that. And then came back to the culture, got married to a gypsy man, had more kids, and it was cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Ended up having a
hypocritical.
child. Ended up having a child with that American man, by the way.
Oh my gosh. That's so
Right?
aggravating.
It's aggravating. Now, if I had married, I'm just going to name, I don't know, I can't think of anyone, Mel Gibson or John Travolta or, whoever, okay, that would have been okay. Maybe
Yeah.
even if I married an NBA star, that might have been okay. But since the people in my life that I've had in relationships were just regular people, like, oh my God, horrible.
It's about appearances.
It is. And I'm saying that about my own family, by the way, not just about
Not
my culture
everybody.
that I came from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? Comment. Indigo twin. Look how far you have come. When you feel discouraged or have a realization that hits you in the heart, take a moment to breathe and see how far you have already come. Stay strong.
Thank you. I
Yes.
need to hear that. Thank you.
Quantum Spirit, you're well down the healing path once you can undo the old programming and actually really develop self-love.
I'm
Absolutely.
going. I'm on that road right now.
Yes, Amy says, thanks everyone. The more of these I watch, the more I see how my childhood paralleled growing up in a cult, strict Irish Catholic and military brat, and narcissistic parent. Whew, that is a combination,
It
but I
is.
broke the cycle. Thank you for sharing that, Amy. Yeah,
Wow.
that must have been really intense. Christy says, looking forward to reading your book when it comes out. When does your book come out? Do we know yet? Do we have a
Well,
date?
I want to say the end of May, but I might not want to say that.
So
Because
TBD.
yeah, because where I'm in the end stages of editing it, getting a picture for the back of the book, a headshot, and I just did the epilogue. So I'm thinking it's going to hit Amazon by the end of the month or sometime in June at the latest. It's not, it's like we're this close.
Yeah. So for people to find you and find the book because it's not out yet and they can't click anything yet, where do you want them to go to be updated when it does launch?
You can go to my Instagram or my TikTok, but the book is named what my name is on Instagram and TikTok. Shay Bari means eldest daughter, and so you're also a Shay Bari uh, home when you're home and not married. So if like let's say there have been a few of them, like there's a woman that's 27, 28, 29, 30s, and she still lives at home with her parents. She's a Shea Body. Like it's equivalent to spinster.
Oh, jeez.
I think I know
Okay.
that sounds terrible, but something like that, like a daughter that just never married. And
Yeah.
even though I did marry outside of the culture or was in relationships outside the culture, I never did in the culture.
Yeah.
So I took that on as my name for the book.
So, but you're married now, and we don't have to get into your relationship, but let everyone know about your life now and how you're doing. So that one commenter wanted to know how many kids you have.
I have two. So I have my daughter that's 32, and then I have a son that's 23. He'll be 24, and he's the one with the baby. He's gorgeous. Well, both of my kids are very, very beautiful, but he's got a child. He's a single dad right now, but and he's single, girls. No, I'm just kidding. He's not. He's not. He's not. He's not. But he's a single dad. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
Um, and they saved my life. My kids are my family. Like I, it's me and them. I love my children. I love my children. And how
Amy
close am
wants
I
to
with my
know,
daughter?
yeah.
We're close. We're very close. Matter of fact, we're so close we argue a lot. We argue a lot. She's a lot like me, but way, way better than me. Very intelligent,
Oh.
very intelligent, very beautiful, very cautious. She probably has a little bit of historical trauma for me because of how I raised her. But she's so much more advanced, like intellectually and educationally, or organically. Like she's just really smart and she's very observant.
Yeah.
She lives
Oh, that's
she lives
beautiful.
right next door. So we
Oh,
are close. We're close.
yeah. That's awesome.
And my son too. He
And
lives here too.
you have love in your life now?
I do. I do. I am married. And we're best friends. We're best friends. He's
Yeah.
not in the culture. He understands the culture. His family is the
Mm-hmm.
best family I've ever had in my entire life. His
Oh,
family is my family. His mother and father and siblings are my mother and father and siblings.
you're adopted
And
in.
they're yes, and I mean from day one, which is weird. While we were just dating, they were like his father. He's like, oh, that's my daughter-in-law. And my like they met me and my kids, and he was like, oh, say so I have X amount of grandchildren. And he was actually like incorporating them like the first day he ever met them. And it's
Hmm.
still that way today. They're very stable people, and I love them very much.
Brenda says, so excited I was able to catch this live, listened while grocery shopping with smiles and a few tears.
Oh,
Oh.
thank you, Brenda.
And Michelle, any more good grandma stories to share? Anything from listening in on her lessons or anything you feel you want to share? Oh, I think she's talking about your grandma when you heard her scamming this lady for hundreds of thousands.
I don't know. Any more stories like that? Um, my grandmother, I'm gonna tell you what, my grandmother, she was a very beautiful woman. I didn't get to know her very well because she died when I was 9. She had cancer.
Mm.
You saw, well, you know a little bit from the book, right? No. How did you know about that?
About your book?
Did-
Because you told me about
Yeah,
it.
I told you about the Mexico. Who am I thinking about? I'm sorry. I'm thinking about my editor. I just spoke with her this morning and we had this
No, that's
conversation
okay.
about my grandmother. And so I was like, wait, we were just talking about this. Sorry. So no, my grandmother died when I was 9. And it's like it's all in the book explaining what happened. She had cancer. And so the little bit that I had her, the funny thing about my grandmother is she told me that she was my mother. And she would tell me stories about when she was in my tummy because she never wanted me to know about my real mom. Because in the culture, when you have a grandchild, or when you a husband and wife divorce ceremonially, the father gets the baby. And so for some reason, my grandmother thought it was the thing to tell me that she was my mom. And so I always believed that I called her Ma until she died. And then my stepmother was like, by the way, you have a mother. It's like,
Wait.
what?
Was this your grandma from your mom's side or your dad's side?
My father's side.
Ew, wait, so hold on, you were led to believe that your dad and his mom had you?
No, that's interesting because I would sit at so that's interesting, right? So I remember being like 7 and 8 going, Ma, and she'd be like, yeah, are you dad's mom? Yes. And you're my mom? Yes. Well, how does that work? And I don't remember what she would say, but I knew for sure that that wasn't what it was. I was like, well,
Okay.
is he's my brother? No, that's your dad, but I'm your mother. And so I don't remember exactly the story, but I knew in my own mind that she wasn't really my mother and that my mother was a secret, but I never brought it up. And when my stepmother told me I had a real mother, I I kind of already had the idea, but I didn't know she existed. Like I thought she was some unicorn. Like I had no clue what she looked like because remember the picture I sent you of me as a baby?
Uh-huh.
That little funky picture? They cut that picture. And on the other side of that was my mother, and I never saw the full picture. I never knew why
Wow.
it was cut. They never told me why it was cut. And then when my mother was in my life and she saw that picture, she's like, "Why is it cut?" I
How
had
did you get
no
in touch
clue.
with her then, if you didn't know who she was?
Well, when my grandmother died, my stepmother took me to a restaurant in Santa Paula called Ichabod's, and we loved that. It was our favorite little restaurant. And she sat there and she said, "I have something to tell you." She said, "You know that Ma wasn't your real mother." And I just started crying. And I got up and ran to the bathroom and threw up. And then when I came back, she said, "Your real mother's name is Humpty." And her real name is Rachel, but that was the nickname that they had for her. She said, "And I want to know if you want to see her." And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know. What are you asking me?" And so the very next big event, which I remember very clearly, was one of my older cousins was getting married and my mother was going to be there. And my mother's was married to the guy that passed away, the bad guy. And she had all her little babies with her. And my stepmother said, "You see that lady over there? That's your mom." And I was not recognizing or registering what that meant, but I remember following her around the big banquet hall and she would look at me and wave. And my stepmother made it so that I could see her without the police getting involved, meaning the gypsy court, or any of the older guys, the older people getting mad about it. She made it so she's like, "No, look, this kid needs to know her mom."
Whoa.
And so it was always in public, in open spaces. And my dad was terrified of it. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. I don't know why, but he did. He allowed it. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. He wanted my stepmother to handle it. And I think that's because he was afraid of my mom's husband because he was a terror. And my father didn't want to be a part of like him saying, "Oh, do you want your ex-wife back?" kind of a situation. Because
Mm.
that's usually the premise behind any kind of custody, if you get what I mean.
So your mother was forbidden to see you.
Correct.
Wow. That must have been hard on her.
Um, I'd like to think so. I don't know. Maybe
You never asked her?
I did, but I don't think it was, I think she was so young. I think she maybe missed me, but I think she really wanted to be married to the guy and she really wanted to be with him. And I know what
But
that
she was
sounds like.
still in the culture.
She was still in the culture.
It was just a divorce, and the just getting a divorce was such a taboo that she was forbidden to see you.
She divorced my father because she cheated on him with someone
Oh, got it.
in the
Okay.
culture, in the culture. And so
Okay.
that was another big reason why they probably took the pictures out and couldn't stand her. I'm not mad at the woman. She was a baby. She was 18 years old. She never wanted to be married to my dad in the first place. She knew my dad was gay and they were friends before they got married. But everybody thought it would be such a perfect, you know, group. I mean, a perfect
Because it
partnership.
was arranged.
They ran away. It was arranged, but not really. They ran away. So who arranged it was my mother's sister. They said this would be perfect. My sister, my sister would be close to me. We'd be daughter-in-laws in the same family tribe under the Merinos. We'll be together. And my grandmother knew and was happy about it. She was like, I love that girl. My mother loved my grandmother as her mother-in-law. She loved her. So my grandmother knew. They didn't have a wedding. They ran off and eloped. They came back. They were a couple. My father loved my mother, loved her. Best friends loved her. My father literally told me, if I had stayed with your mother, I probably wouldn't be gay. I'd stay with her. But there was no other woman I ever wanted. That's what he told me. I don't know how true that is, but that's
Yeah.
what he told me. He was desperately in love with her. And she loved my father as a best friend. She didn't want to be married to him. So
Yeah.
I was 18 once. I could understand what that could feel like. So I don't blame her.
Yeah.
I don't blame her.
Wow.
Yeah.
So much to your story, Gina. Thank you
I,
for coming on and
I know.
sharing with us the latter half. And thank you everyone who is watching live and commented and asked questions. We love hearing your feedback and chatting with you on these lives. Is there anything, Tara says, thank you for your strength. It may ignite others' inner courage. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we go?
Um, if you're stuck somewhere, you only live one life. If you're stuck somewhere, reach out, claw out and ask someone for help, talk to someone, manifest it, and believe in yourself.
Yeah. Find that inner strength and that self-love
Do
that
it.
we talked about.
Do it. If that's what you want to
Yeah.
do it. You only live one time. You don't get do-overs.
Yes. Well, speaking of reaching out, people can find you through your Instagram. The link in the description, you can click that and go to her Instagram. And yeah, go check out the first interview. It was great. Like this video, helps boost the algorithm. If you leave comments after the video is posted, that also helps. Any engagement, anything that you can do with the post is helpful in any way. It's a free way to support the podcast, and we really appreciate you guys being here and sharing and supporting. And we do have a Patreon at patreon.com/cults to consciousness. If you want to join us there, we are opening channel membership soon. I know I've said that for like months, but for reals this time. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, Gina, for being here. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I loved it. I really
All
appreciate you.
right. Thank you, everybody. And until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious, and be well.